stretch out. More of a focus on hip mobility and hamstrings. So you're going to come onto all fours first. Where am I? There I am. Good. Take your left leg straight back out behind you. See if we can get it straight, pointed toe, hip height, so lift it up. From there, you're going to imagine that your toes are leaving paint marks behind them. So you're going to paint a semicircle, well, a quarter circle with your toes. So you've got a paintbrush on your toes. You're going to bring your leg out to the side. Keep it hip height if you can, it might fall down. See if you can keep it hip height and back again. So you're painting a quarter circle, so going between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock on a clock face with that hip. You might feel like you're quite unstable on your hands, so you can widen where your hands are if you want to. So let me do it here for you. You can widen where your hands are to help yourself feel a little bit more stable. So we'll do a few of these on your left. Let's go for 3 more. See if you can get as high as possible. The hardest bit, I know, the hardest bit is here, where everything just wants to fall down. Lift it up, bring it in front of your hip if you can. And then we'll change sides. So lift your right leg back behind you. Then we're making a semicircle. Adjust your hands to support yourself. See if you can get that leg up, hip height. Try not to bend down into your back, so keep your hips level. Tuck your hips under slightly. And then make those quarter circles with this leg. So bringing it out to the side. See if you can keep it hip height. Your body will lean over to the side probably. Compensate by moving your hands to support yourself. Our focus here is getting into your hip. So making as much space in your hip as we can, getting as much mobility as we can. Basically getting your leg and your foot as high off the floor as possible. So just getting into that joint, opening into your joint. Yes, it's a little bit crampy. Let's do one more. It gets better than this, I promise. Think of this as a warm-up. In a nice way, it gets better, I promise. Come onto all fours again. Lovely. So your bum's talking to you now. We're going to do the same thing, but with your shoulders. So take your hand out in front of you, lift your arm up. So we want shoulders level, but we want our arm not to be down here. We want this arm level with the rest of your back. Then bring it out to the side, and then forwards again. So exactly the same, but this time we're kind of flossing into your shoulder. So we want it lifted up. We don't want it down here. We want the mobility to be either shoulder height or even slightly higher. Good. So opening into your shoulder. So you can make bigger movements here. So if we start at 12 o'clock and bring our hand all the way down to 5 o'clock, you can make a big motion here. And it should go without saying, but I bet you're doing it. Don't stop breathing. You've probably held your breath a few times already. This is your cue to start breathing. Normally. Let's do 2 more like this. Good. Hands to the floor. Then we'll do the other side. So, find a stable position. Right hand out in front of you. Then lift it up. So it kind of comes to about ear height. And then from there, floss it down. So you're bringing it to about 5 o'clock. Forwards again to 12.
How did it go?
Let's keep that movement going. So if you can keep your hand slightly above your body. So we're getting into the shoulder. Let's do do the last one now. Good. Great. Everyone's feeling warm. We'll come into downward dog. So staying on your hands and knees. Tuck your toes under. Lift your knees off the floor. And then your motion here is not up. Your motion is back. So I want you to push yourself from lifting your knees off the floor, push yourself back. In fact, let's do it like that. So keep your knees bent, push yourself back so that your ribs, you can feel your lower ribs on your thighs. So you're really tucked in. Lower ribs on thighs, and then from there, keeping your lower ribs where they are, lift your hips, straighten your legs. So what you'll probably want to do is get yourself into what you recognise as a downward dog and compensate by bringing your ribs forwards. Can you see what I'm doing? Compensating by bringing your ribs forwards. Keep your ribs where they are, so bend your knees really deeply, put your lower ribs on your thighs, keep yourself here, and straighten your legs as much as you can. It doesn't matter how straight they go or don't go. You want to keep your ribs where they are. So you're really opening into your shoulders here, so we've not pushed our shoulders forwards. You want to feel like your ears are in front of your arms here. Or think of it like your arms are behind your ears. That's where we want to get to. And then straighten your legs as much as is allowable here. Take some really deep breaths. Push down into the pads of your hands, so forwards towards your fingers. Into the pads underneath your knuckles. So you're taking the weight out of your wrists a little bit, so just sharing the weight with the rest of your hand. Keep breathing. Then I want you to pedal your feet. So you'll bend one knee deeply and push the other heel to the ground. So bend one knee deeply, push the other heel to the ground, and then change. So like bicycling your feet, pedaling. So just isolating one hamstring and then the other. Keep breathing. Get a little bit of tension in your core to help with that breath. So use the tension in your core to help your out breath. And then let's stop that pedaling and relax back into your downward dog. See how it feels. Adjust anything you need to adjust. You might need to adjust your hand position. Breathe again. Come back down onto all fours. So from here, we're going to step very briefly back into downward dog and then step your right foot forwards between your hands. There we go. So from there, this right leg's probably a little bit bent. Keep your back leg where it is. Push your heel to the floor. Turn your toes out very slightly so that they're not completely pointing forwards. Turn them out. And then push back into this right leg. So stretching into your right leg. Push down into your toes on this right foot. So you're pushing your toes into the floor, a little bit like you're pressing the accelerator in a car. So push down into the floor like you're pressing an accelerator. Feel a nice stretch in the back of your leg. And then this left hip here, just slightly anchor it down. So it'll probably want to lift up. It will probably want to turn you into a bit of a twist so you can see where I am here. So if we can get this hip coming down, this shoulder coming down, so take your left hand somewhere on this right leg, either on your shin or further down towards your ankle, and you're pushing down into the ball of your right foot, a little bit like pressing the accelerator on a car in order to stretch this right leg. And breathe. A little bit of tension in your core again to assist with that out breath. So focus much more on the out breath while we're doing this. Assisting it with your core. So your core muscles are squeezing the last bit of air out. Lovely. Take your hands back to the floor, bend into your right leg. Step back quickly into downward dog, and then step your left leg forwards. Here we go. Right and left. It's going well. So your right leg is straight now. Take your right heel to the floor, turn your right toes out. And then same thing on this left leg. Push down like you're pushing into an accelerator with your toes, ball of your foot on the left. Then right hip. Just anchor that right hip down a little bit. Bringing your right hand somewhere on this left leg, and that will even out your shoulders as well. So see if you can get your right hand down towards your left ankle. And if you can have your fingers on the top of this foot, and then push into like the knuckles of your toes. That kind of helps give your body a little prompt to push down into your foot, and that pushing down into your foot is what is stretching the back of this leg. And then let's practice our breathing again. So exhaling and using your core muscles to push all of that air out. Your body will inhale automatically. But give it a little bit of help to exhale. Relax your face, take your chin down towards your chest. Keep accelerating. Good. Bend into this left knee, take your hands to the floor, step back into a downward dog. Just briefly. See how your downward dog feels now, see if it's changed a little bit. And then look between your hands. Then we're going to bring your right leg, right foot, outside this right hand. If it only comes here, that's fine. Grab it, bring it forwards. So we're in a lunge now. Where am I? There. So I'm in a lunge and I've got my right foot outside my right hand. Back leg straight. Keep your left hand on the floor. Take your right hand straight up. So it's coming up. Look up at this right hand. Keep your back leg straight. Keep looking up at this hand. And then open. So just like what we were doing in that first exercise where we lifted your arm up and made those circles from 12 to a 5 and a clock face. Do that here. Find that feeling here where you're getting your arm behind your ear, opening out as much as possible. Pointing your fingers towards the ceiling. Carry on round if you can and really open it out. See if you can point this arm. See if you can see me better here. See if you can point this arm back so that it's going in line with your right leg behind you. So really opening out. If you need to here, if it's getting particularly unpleasant, you can take this right knee to the floor behind you. Try and keep it up if you can. Do not hold your breath. And then let's take that back knee to the floor, all of us together. Untuck your toe. So you've got the top of your foot on the floor. Take your right hand to your right knee. Turn your right toes out slightly. So if they're on a clock face, if they were pointing at 12 before, you're going to point them out to about 1, 2 o'clock. Take your hand to this right knee and push open. While you're doing that, you want to sink this left hip down. So it's very easy to come here. So if you see me, it's very easy to keep your hips back. What I would like to try and see you try and do is get this hip down so we've got a straight line between your shoulder and your knee on the left. So straight line leading down, shoulder to knee, then push this knee open, this right knee open. It's delightful on your hips. I say delightful. And breathe. See if you can work into that hip, push your left hip towards the floor. Keep your breathing really, really relaxed. That will tell your central nervous system that this is not an emergency situation. Okay, getting out of this might be tricky, so do it slowly. Take your right hand back to the floor, push your hips back first of all, so take the stretch out of your left hip. Then you can bring your right knee round to the floor. Find your way back to all fours, push back to downward dog. Just see how downward dog's changed again from that first one. Tuck your chin to your chest. Look between your hands. Assist it if you need to, but you're going to take this left foot, goodness me, outside your left hand, and we're back. Here we are. We're back in this lunge position. So we've got left foot outside of left hand on the floor, right foot on the floor, so we're in this nice deep lunge here. From here, you're going to lift your left hand up, point it towards the ceiling, look up at it if it feels okay on your neck. Keep your hips down. And again, you can take your knee to the floor if you need to. We're going to do that anyway at some point. But see if you can keep it up as long as you can. And then remember that first exercise we did with our shoulders. So you're going to take this left hand, open it. See if you can point it back so that it's pointing the same direction as your right heel. So everything's opening and twisting. Shoulders out of your ears so they're not shrugging up. Breathing is constant, so there's no sticky breath, there's no kind of feeling going on. So I'm talking normally while I'm doing this. You should be able to talk normally as well. If not, take some of the intensity out of it. Take your knee to the floor. We're all going to take our knee to the floor now anyway, so come down. Good. See if you can keep that straightness of the line between your right shoulder and your right knee. So we're not pushing back in our hip, you're trying to get this hip as forwards as you can. Untuck your back toes, and then take your left hand to your left knee, and we're going to open. So you're going to push this knee away from you. Try not to curl into this left ankle. See if you can keep the inside edge, which is your big toe edge of your left foot, pointing down towards the floor. So you shouldn't be able to see the sole of your foot. You're pointing it down towards the floor. So that inside edge of your left foot can lift off the floor. That's fine, but it's still, the foot's pointing down. Breathe. A little bit more tension and intention into that out breath. So use your core muscles to help you breathe all the way out. Lovely, lovely. Okay, so we've got to break out of it now. So take your left hand to the floor and push your hips back. Then you can get this left knee to the floor, so we're in all fours. We'll push into one more downward dog, just to feel how it's changed. So, ears in front of arms, arms behind ears. Bend your knees if you need to get your lower ribs onto your thighs, and then lift your hips, push back to wherever you can. Come back onto the floor. Lovely. Okay, you're going to sit on your bum. So put your feet in front of you, like this, so you're kind of kneeling, so feet on the floor. Let them flop over to the side, and as you do, adjust your feet so that you've got the sole of your foot, let's say your right foot, sole of your foot on the top of this thigh knee. So you're in like a 90-90 position. Lovely. You're going to lean forwards. So first of all, let's think. Let's lean over this right leg. So you've got your right shin here. Lean forwards over this right shin. Get tension in this leg. So push your right knee to the floor. And that feeling of pushing your right knee into the floor is kind of braking, putting brakes on your body. So if we were to let this leg go, we could just flop over it. I don't want you to do that. I want you to lean forwards over this right shin and push down into this right shin, and you'll kind of feel a brake going on, as if that right knee pushing down is pushing you back. Find that edge where you've stopped moving. So you've got the weight of your torso pushing forwards, and this right knee is pushing down to put the brakes on slightly. And then just play with that. There's no stopping point here, just kind of play with that movement. So let yourself come down, put the brakes on, push yourself back up. So this will get into your hip in a much more lasting way than flopping down into a pigeon pose will. Doing that feels nice, but what we're going for here is a nice active, loaded stretch. Take some more deep breaths. And then let's come out of it and change sides. Nice and slowly. So, Same on this side. So you've got your left foot on top of your right knee, not on top of like that, it's just still on the floor, so you've still got your left ankle on the floor. Good. Face your torso over this left shin, then you're going to lean forwards and put the brake on. So push this left shin into the left knee into the floor, and that puts the brakes on. So you're leaning over, so you've got the whole weight of your torso coming forwards, but then this knee is resisting and it's sending all of that power down into your hip. So yeah, it might feel like you don't want to stay here, but breathe. No sticky breaths, keep that breathing smooth. And then just play with your weight a little bit, so let yourself come further forwards by taking the brake off your knee, then putting the brake back on and pushing back up. So just playing around with where your edge is. Good. Come back up. Then we're just going to move here for a little bit. So keep your bum where it is. Take your hands behind you if you need to. You're going to lean back, lift your legs off the floor, and very, very slowly, with no momentum, change sides and put them back down. So we want to avoid dragging and just letting gravity flop them down. So all of this movement we're trying to make come from your hips. So lean back, lift off the floor first, like this, little hover. Move them slowly. Using your core, you have to use your core quite a lot here. Put them back down. You can have your hands behind you to support you, but they're not going to do anything for your hips. It's still your hips that have got to do the work. Taking your hands off the floor just gives your core a bit more to do. That's all. Yes, you might not be able to do it at first, that's fine. Practice, practice, practice. Lift off the floor. Good. And then change sides. And back down. So the putting back down is the bit where you might feel like you rush. So this can be quite slow and controlled. Even this can be quite slow and controlled. The hardest bit is to slowly and controlledly put this back down, as you can see. There we go. Do this a few more times. I invite you to stop the video and carry on doing this. Feel your core. We'll take it one more time. And then we'll move on. Feel free to stop and keep playing with this. We'll stay sitting on the floor. Bring your feet together now. You can sit on something here if you want. So you can sit on a cushion, you can sit on a step, you can sit on a yoga block. Something to elevate your hips if you need to. If you feel like you haven't got any length in your spine, if you're having to really compensate and lean forwards, you're going to hold onto your ankles. Pull your heels towards you a little bit, adjust, move around, find somewhere comfy. Then sitting up straight, pull against your ankles like you're trying to pull your ankles towards you. And as you're pulling on your ankles, slide your shoulders down your back so you're making space. Push your chest forwards, so you're kind of pulling your arms back to make room for your chest, so you're pushing your chest forwards. And then from there, take your knees, take your attention to your knees, and using the power of your hips, push your knees towards the floor. So you can see that little change in what I'm doing. So when I'm not doing anything, the angle of my knees is this. And then when I'm thinking about using my glutes and all the muscles around my hips to push my knees down, I go from here to here. So it's not a massive difference for me, might be for you. But I'm hanging on and I'm using the power in my hips, inner thigh muscles to push down. So you're pushing the outside edges of your knees down towards the floor. Keep breathing. This is a great one to stop breathing on, don't. By great, I mean easy and tempting. And common. Don't do it. Don't fall for the hype. Take some deep breaths. Keep pushing. I didn't say stop pushing. Keep pushing. Good. Rest. Okay. I would recommend now having something to sit on, be it a yoga block or a cushion. We're going to come and do the opposite thing with your hips. So come into kneeling. Feel free to just come to kneeling if this is enough for you. We're going to take your heels out to the side. So lift up, keep your knees together and part your feet. Then you're going to sit back between your heels. If you haven't got anything to sit on actually, what you might do is support yourself with your hands. So take your hands back towards your ankles and support yourself. So I'm not completely sitting down, I'm taking my weight in my hands here. So let me show you from this angle. So we've got knees together. I'm going to support myself so I'm not completely putting my bum between my heels, but it's going that way. So if you've got a yoke block, you can put that here under your bum and sit on it, or a cushion. And then we are eventually heading towards sitting between your heels. But this one takes a while to get into. And it can be wherever you want today, so you can just keep holding yourself, keep edging, working out where you need to be. What helps with all of these things, is to not be passive. So push the tops of your feet into the floor and take some of your own weight. So we're not just dumping down into your knees here. Imagine like you're trying to stand back up again. So you're trying to straighten your legs. I could straighten my legs here if I wanted, completely. So can you. Take it here, then put the brakes on. So again, we're playing with the idea of putting some brakes on. So you're using the power of your legs to control how deep your hips are. So if you're sitting on a block, make yourself light on that block by flirting with straightening your knees. And that makes everything feel a bit safer. It makes your knees not feel like they're about to break if they were before. That's kind of what it feels like for me when I first come into it. It feels a little bit like I'm going to snap. Get that little bit of tension, so put the brakes on so you're not completely just dumping down. There's a time and a place for that. But today, we're getting a little bit of stretch on. So it might just be you edged yourself into it, holding yourself and supporting yourself. Then we activated to make yourself feel like you're sitting up and lifting up, and that takes some of the weight off your arms. It might be that you're here today, you might actually feel like you're lifted up quite a lot. Work out where you need to be. So some of the weight's in your hands, some of the power is coming from your hips and knees and legs. After a while, we've been here a while, it might feel like you can let yourself relax down a little bit. Maybe not. Throw some more support into your arms. Get that sensation of trying to straighten your knees, to switch on all of the muscles. So put the brakes on, completely passively coming down. We'll stop this now. I think we've all had enough of this. But hopefully you can feel what I mean in terms of putting the brakes on and turning this into an active stretch, using your arms, using the muscles of your legs. Slowly, slowly come out of it, back onto all fours. Lovely, good. Let's lie down. Lying down is nice. Okay, we're going to come into happy baby because everyone loves this. So you're going to pull your knees in, like so. Part your knees. Take your arms inside your knees now. And then you're going to hold on to the outside edge of your feet. So take your hands over the top of your feet, not the bottom of your feet. Your hands aren't on the bottom of your feet. Take them over the top. Hold on to the little toe edge of your feet. Take your head to the floor. Let your shoulders relax towards the floor. So let your shoulders be heavy. And then point the soles of your feet towards the ceiling. So we're just here. Let your shoulders relax towards the floor. Your knees are kind of aiming towards the floor by your armpits. So this might well be enough. We'll stay here for a while. You can move around in this position, so you can rock from side to side. I highly recommend rocking from side to side. You can then straighten one leg, a bit like in downward dog. You can keep one knee bent, straighten one leg as much as possible, bring it back in, and then straighten the other leg. Bring it back in, so like stepping, pedaling, cycling your legs. So you'll probably find that you can get a little bit further if you actively push. So like you're trying to push your heel away from you, actively push it out. There might be shapes. Bring it back in, then do the other one. So keep doing this. Keep that stepping feeling, so straightening one leg, bending the other. Keep breathing. It's easier to breathe when you're lying down. But I'll remind you anyway. If you're feeling like it, you can straighten both legs at the same time and see what happens. Then bring them back in. Push your tailbone down towards the floor, so it's kind of easy to get some flexibility by lifting your tailbone off the floor, like this, as you can see. Push your tailbone back down. Straighten your legs. And then play with the direction that your feet are pointing. So at the moment my toes are pointing straight back behind me. So my toes are pointing, my big toes are pointing the same angle as my shoulders. I'm going to turn my toes out so that they're pointing away from me, and then straighten my legs, or try and straighten my legs with that position. So turning my toes out. Keep resting your face, keep your shoulders coming down. And then just keep playing here, straightening your legs, bending them, doing one then the other, whichever one felt good, or just bringing it all back in, rocking from side to side again. Spend some time here. Keep pushing your tailbone back towards the floor. Feel how different that feels when you push your tailbone towards the floor and rock, versus when you lift your tailbone up and rock. It feels much nicer to push your tailbone down here. Keep breathing. Good. Straighten your legs one more time and hold it here. Turn your toes out. Breathe. Shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. Experiment with holding onto your ankles and pointing your toes now. See how different that feels? So toes pointed, holding onto your ankles or your shins. And then experiment again with making ankle circles. So turning your ankles around in circles in this position. So we've got legs stretched, hamstrings stretched. And we're making circles with your ankles and your toes. So big circles, click your feet if you're anything like me. And then go the other direction. So do this for a while. Kind of takes your mind off what you're doing with your legs when you've got something else to think about. So circling your ankles around. You still might have bent legs here, it's fine. Wherever you feel a stretch is absolutely fine. We're not looking for straight legs, we're looking for stretched legs. So making circles still. Keeping that going. Still those circles now. Straighten your legs out once more. And then come back to happy baby. Classic happy baby, hands around your feet. And then relax your feet towards the floor. Good. I want you to know, take your feet wider than your hips, so step your feet out wider than your hips, and then let your knees fall in towards each other. And breathe here. So this hopefully should feel quite nice, and you can take your feet as wide as you want to and let your knees fall together. Take your arms overhead. So straight overhead. Relax them towards the floor. And then this is where we'll stay. So take some deep breaths here. This is where I leave you. At least 10 deep breaths here before you turn everything off. Well done.